Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. There are three possible standpoints, and each standpoint gives us a different understanding. The first standpoint is the standpoint between the relative components, I versus you. We were all the time in the afternoon looking at the sea from a distance, couldn't go near. So, wave versus wave, I versus you. This is one vision. I told you this thing, but you never listened to me, and now you are complaining. I have been always telling you, I, you, one vision. Second vision is the vision of the cause towards the effect. See? How the ocean looks at the waves. Ocean is the cause, waves are the effect. Parents are the cause, children are the effect. That is the second vision. Now the third vision is vision of the wave to the ocean. How the children look towards the parents. Third vision. And the fourth vision is how the water looks at the ocean and the waves. How a human being looks at the human being. These are the four visions possible. Now the first vision is the vision of relativity. In this vision of relativity, there is always I versus you, and therefore there is always competition, achievement, failure, jealousy, envy, anger, desire, guilt, frustration, as well as happiness. Now, as long as this relative vision, we take it as right and the ultimate vision, we have put, the blinkers on our eyes and we don't want to see beyond this. Such people lead a life of utter dissatisfaction throughout the life. And to remove that dissatisfaction at every stage, the life of such people is fulfilling the desires. I want this, I want that. And thus, if we look into our own life, what we have done till date, if we have to write an autobiography in one line, what we will write? We have been trying to fulfill our desires till date, but yet desires are not fulfilled. And this is called technically as Bhavasagar, or the ocean of relative existence. See, in Sanskrit it is called as Bhavasagar. Sagar means the ocean. Now, ocean has no limits, it is infinite in expanse as well as the depth. In the same manner, our desires are also infinite. There is no end to it. One desire is fulfilled, 100 are standing in the queue. We fulfill that second desire, another 100 are standing. And thus, whole life we are only doing this thing, fulfilling our desires, fulfilling our desires. Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes in a beautiful poem, बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीरक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न रक्तः. Childhood goes in fulfilling the desires for the toys. See, I want this, I want that. Then the youth comes. In the youth, one starts running after the boys or the girls, depending upon who you are. That time, nothing is important. Only running, running, running. And then the old age comes. And in old age, there is only one occupation. And that is worry, worry, worry. See, one old family, when I went to their house, the son, who was a retired brigadier, he told me this. He says, Swamiji, please tell my mother. When he is retired brigadier, he must be 60 plus. So his mother was 98 not out. So he said, you please tell her. So what should I tell? She is constantly worrying about everything in the world. Now I am a grandfather, and she is worried about my grandchildren, that I am not taking care of them. See? And I don't know how to tell her, stop all these things, relax. Things will move. He will not agree. So you please tell her not to worry. So I said, okay. That day I discovered there is nothing like free dinner in this world. People get work done through you and then they give you food. So I said, Mama, there is a complaint lodged against you. You are constantly worrying. Stop worrying. There is no need to worry. She scolded me, being elderly lady. She said, you also tell me the same thing. This is the only thing I can do. If this also I don't do, then what do I do? So worry also becomes a hobby, rather a habit. See? Therefore, till such time we are only engaged in desire fulfillment, there cannot be fulfillment in life. What we are seeking is fulfillment in life and not fulfillment of desires. Now the question comes, why do we want to fulfill our desires? First vision we are taking, the relative vision. Why we want to fulfill our desires? We want to fulfill our desires only because we have a sense of incompleteness. And this sense of incompleteness is born out of what? See, when there is an emptiness in the stomach, then there is a desire for food. If we have eaten up to the nose level, then there is no desire for food. So wherever there is a sense of incompleteness, there the desire pops up. See. Now let us analyze our own experiences. This is one of the most important thing in life. We analyze our own experience and we learn from our own experience, and then we grow with every experience wise, not old. Normally with every experience we grow old, and then we expect, see, people don't respect elderly people. See, what is our contribution that our age is more? Zero. It is the earth which is running around the sun and we are growing in age. See the tragedy. Our contribution is zero. Without doing, we are growing in age. Therefore, if we analyze our experience, what is that which brings us a sense of incompleteness, which leads to the desire formation? And what is that when there is no sense of incompleteness and therefore no desires, therefore all bliss? Two experiences. So one experience is this, now as we are all awake. What is our understanding? Our understanding is that we are the body and therefore incomplete. See? how the incompleteness of the body. This is a great fun to watch. Those people who have curly hair, there was one girl in Bombay. She had such beautiful curly hair. She went to the hair studio and got all of them straightened. I said, Swamiji, how do I look? I said, you look like a Chinese. You had such beautiful curly hair. Why did you make them straight? No, Swamiji, that is the fashion of the day. So that I will look good. And see, the Chinese girls, they have got straight hair. They will be putting, the rollers and whole night sit like this thing. So that their hair become curly. What we have is only the body, and to decorate the body, to maintain the body is the only purpose of our existence. See? Meaning, till such time we live as body, we will have the sense of incompleteness. See? This is the reason why a young boy, healthy boy, educated boy, intelligent boy wants to get married. Because there is a sense of incompleteness. What a life without a wife. So get married. And for what we get married? So that there is fulfillment. See? But the spelling changes. Fool. It is F-O-O-L, not fulfillment, F-U-L-L. Fulfillment. See? Okay, after you get married, have you discovered fulfillment in life? No. There should be children. Okay, you have children. Is there fulfillment in life? No, they should grow well and they should be well studied. Is there fulfillment? No, they should also get married and suffer as I suffered. See, there is no end to the fulfillment of desires. Therefore, the first vision is the vision wherein we start living as a limited entity, a limited individual. And this limited individual is born the moment we start living as the body and not through the body. This is one of the most important principles of life. Every time we have to remind ourselves that we are living as the body or we are living through the body. If we are living as the body, then rules are different. If we are living through the body, rules are different. See? If you are driving in this country, I was told recently, in this country, if you have a car driving license, that doesn't mean you can drive a motorcycle. You require a separate license for motorcycle, unlike in India. There you don't require license, you can do anything. There is real democracy. No rules, no regulations. In the same manner, if we are living as the body, no problem. Then follow the rules and regulations. Then the rules and regulations are, Bhagavad Gita tells, Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturabhuhu ma te sangha astu akarmani. Then the rules and regulations are, if you are married, now you have responsibility towards three things. First, you have responsibility towards your parents. You have responsibility towards your dependent, wife, husband, children. And you have responsibility towards the society. Now fulfill your responsibilities if you are living as the body. That is the rule. See? But if we want to live as a body and do not follow the rules and regulations of the game, then we are going the wrong way. Because human birth has attained perfection at the body level. There is nothing more that can be added to. The hereafter, the only evolution could be only the spiritual evolution. And for that spiritual evolution, we have to prepare ourselves. And the preparation is done by changing the vision. And we can't change the vision overnight. It will take its own time. So this preparation of changing the vision is called as the spiritual life. I am not talking about religious life. I am talking about spiritual life. So, when we are thus responsibly living our life, what will happen? We will have no time to go the wrong way in a selfish manner. There is a saying in India where they say, before you are married, you should fulfill your desires of purchasing different type of clothes. Once you are married, all shopping goes only for the wife's sake, not for your sake. And before your kids are born, you should fulfill all your desires of eating various things. After the kids are born, you have to eat the leftover from their plate. And thus, when we are leading our relative existence as the body, the lifestyle should be that we lead a responsible lifestyle. And when this is followed strictly in letter and spirit, then alone there will be no regrets, no guilt toward the end of our life. Guilt and regrets are the two burdens that we carry and suffer silently. See, friends. To get rid of that, this is the technique given. Never mind you are living as a body, yes. Then who are you as a body? As a body, I am a husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, father-in-law, etc. Then fulfill all your duties. And a person who is engaged in fulfilling the duties, he has no time to go the wrong way. See, a person who doesn't take any responsibility in life, he can go the way he wants and leads an animalistic life. Therefore, the first step is changing our vision. The present vision is that I am the body, and therefore I am some relation, etc. So lead that life with these rules and regulations. And when this is lived, unknowingly it starts happening that our mind starts becoming purer and purer. What is a pure mind? Pure mind is that mind which does not carry the burden of personal likes and dislikes. Desires are nothing but execution of personal likes and dislikes. So, when we lead our life in this manner, the mind becomes purer, doesn't carry too much of load of likes and dislikes. Now I see these young parents, I have seen them even before marriage also. That time, totally different. After the kids are born, their personal likes and dislikes are gone. Whether you want or not, the fellow will say, I want this thing, okay. You eat this leftover, okay, you eat. See, the personal likes and dislikes slowly disappear. And as a result, mind starts remaining quieter and quieter. Then comes the second stage. And the second stage is that we are someone as an effect to the cause. So I as a son is an effect to my parents. Parents are my cause. Now the second relationship. I versus my parents. So it is my duty to take care of my parents till I am alive or till they are alive. The whole society is beautifully developed with this philosophy. See, friends. And when this is done, one learns something great. And what is that great? Two things. One, the importance of respect and reverence in life. Wherever we have respect and reverence, we are the gainers, not the losers. Because when we respect somebody or something, that somebody or something is not benefited. It is the one who gives respect, he is benefited. See? When we go to the temple, there is one Lord statue standing there. And we go and stand with all respect and reverence and feel good and come back. It makes no difference to the statue. See? The other fellow goes, takes a photograph, come back. It makes no difference. The difference is made with the attitude with what we go to the temple. Now, if the same attitude of respect and reverence can be developed, then how do we start it? So Upanishad says, first of all, Matru Devo Bhava, the effect must surrender to the cause. Pitru Devo Bhava, the effect must surrender to the cause. Look upon the mother as God. Look upon the father as God. Then third, look upon the teacher, the Guru as God, Acharya Devo Bhava. And then the ultimate vision is look upon every being as the manifestation of God. See, the vision is slowly changing. And when this vision starts changing, then there cannot be any competition. Because we are leading a life of reverential interaction. See? We don't compete with our father. We don't compete with our mother. See? We don't compete with the teacher. That spirit of competition with others is a negative force. If we have to compete, we compete with our own performance. Earlier I used to get angry 100 times per second. Now slowly it is reducing. Now I get 90 times angry per second. Oh, good. Improving. But normally what we do, I don't get only angry, everybody gets angry. That means I am justifying my being angry. See, friends. So in this manner, when our vision changes, the effect is looking at the cause. We look upon this world as the cause because of whom we are what we are. When this reverential attitude is developed, then the experience in the same world changes. Earlier the world was terrible, but after this reverential attitude has gone deep in our system, then the experiences start changing. See, normally we blame, oh, the world is too corrupt, the world is very bad, the people are not disciplined, and this thing, that thing. All the great saints and sages, they also lived in the same world. They did not live in a special world, in the same world. But they have never complained about the world. You take any great master, they have never complained about the world. See? Because now their vision has completely changed. Now they look upon the total world as the parents look upon the children. See? When the parents look upon the children, the parents are not trying to condemn anyone. Whatever way the child is, after all, it's my child. See, friends, in the same manner, with this change in the vision, it is like the ocean looking at the waves. Everybody is equal to me. It's not that tsunami is bad and the ripples are good, no. In the same manner, all the great masters, they have come to this third vision. They look upon the total world as the God looks upon his creation, or as the parents look upon their own children. See? Like, two kinds of kids. One child very much naughty, making noise and making everybody miserable. And two mothers. One mother is the mother of the child. Other mother is not the mother of that child, but some other child. What will be their interaction? The mother of that child, she will start glorifying the terrible behavior and the foolishness of the child as a grade. Oh, he is so naughty. She is not angry. She is glorifying the foolishness and the terrible behavior. Oh, he is so sweet. He is so naughty. And the other lady who is not the mother of the child, these days the parents don't teach the children proper manners. See, the child is the same. Immediately the interaction differs. Therefore, unless we learn this principle, we will not be able to have the ultimate vision of life. And this ultimate vision of life is the purpose of all the spiritual practices. We have to change our vision. Because when the vision changes, the interaction changes. When the interaction changes, the experiences change. When the experiences change, the quality of life changes. See? When somebody says, oh, I am miserable, what does he mean? His experiences of life are full of misery. That's it. It is the same place, other people are not miserable, but this person is miserable. Because the way he is interacting with the given situation is different. See? Like, all of you are doctors here. When the patient is taken to the emergency ward by his relation or friends, they do not know what is the condition, whether it is really serious or not serious. So they are all excited. And the doctors and the nurses, they know what is the condition. So they are cool, they are not excited. And we feel, oh, these doctors are very irresponsible, they are not taking care, But the doctors, they know what is the condition. In the same manner, when the vision changes, our interaction with the world starts changing. Now there is no more reason to love or hate anybody. See, friends. And when this vision changes, then one starts remaining at peace with oneself. See? So how we started the whole thought process? If we are living as a body, never mind. But these are the rules applicable. So living as a body in such a manner that the impact is on the quality of the vision. But if we start living as a body and then only talking about the differences, and therefore those who don't listen to me should be killed, then it is a terrible life. But if we are leading the life as a body, then be responsible to yourself, to the people around you, to the society, and then the effect of that lifestyle should be seen not on the world, but on the quality of the mind that is left behind. See, friends, because whatever we experience only through mind. If the mind is disturbed, your quality of experience will be disturbed. See? Like, the other day, I was taking food somebody's place and I received one SMS. I read it and kept it in my pocket. We had our food and everything. And when everything was over, at the time of going, I called that man of the house. I said, look here, this is a SMS I received. some such and such person met with a very bad accident. So I had to go there, okay? So don't create a commotion. See? At the time of taking food, had I told the message, everybody's mood would have been off and the whole function would have been a totally null and void. See, when it was not known, that means when the mind is at peace, you enjoy. Therefore, let our life be lived with that vision so that our mind is at peace. See, friends. It is for this purpose the importance of the vision is. So how we look at the world. Bhagwan Shankara says, Shatrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau. When you lead in this world, your life, do not create friends and enemies. See? Don't create mine and not mine. Be equal to all. The net result will be our mind will be at peace. And with that peaceful mind, you will see not only our life is beautiful, but all those who come in our contact, they also start feeling good in our presence. Because we are no more reacting. Reactions are totally suspended. See? And such a cool, quiet mind is now able to see beyond the obvious horizon of life. What is the obvious horizon of life? Our life is between the womb and the tomb. There is nothing beyond. Normally, this is what we understand. See? Now, here is a new area, new vision opened. And this vision is for whom? For those who are unable to transcend the barrier of the mind or the intellect. Those who are intellectuals. There are two types of people, intelligent and intellectuals. Intelligent people are never miserable. Intellectuals are intelligently miserable. And such people have got every time, why? Like, our Anand. What's your name? Swamiji? My name is Swamiji. Why? Why not? But why? Why can be added to everything. One of the simplest spiritual practice I'll tell you, try this. Delete these two words from your dictionary. Why and how. Immediate question will pop. Why? And then how? Our whole life is nothing but whiling the life by howling at the life. Why? So how the questions come? The questions come. Why some people are born with the deformities, and why some people are born so healthy? Why some people are born in the poor families? Why some people are born in the good families? Why? If it is only one tree, mango tree, then how come to that mango tree there are sometimes mangoes, there are sometimes tomatoes, there are sometimes chilies? Why so? If we are all the children of the same father, the same mother, how come and why there is so much of difference? Intelligent people, they think asking question is intelligence. It is stupidity, it is not intelligence. Intelligent people reply the question. They don't ask the question. But we ask, why God created the world? Our entry on the spiritual path starts with this. Why God created the world? This happened in India, in Rishikesh. I was on the banks of Ganges. That is a place, very beautiful place. And I was just, comfortably, coolly, just walking and watching at the people and all that. There was one child who was crying very vigorously. And there were three ladies. And they asked me, excuse me, why this child is crying? Now, how do I know why the child is crying? But when the people look at us, they feel we are supposed to answer every question in the whole world. So I said, you imagine why the child is crying? I don't know, you tell. So the three ladies were three types. One was a mother, second was a doctor, and third was a social worker. So the mother said, oh, the child is crying, must be very hungry. Indian mothers understand only one quality of love. Feed the child as if he is a tiffin box. And therefore the child must be crying, one mother said. The second lady was a doctor. Doctors cannot think health. So, why? Maybe he is having abdominal colic and therefore he is crying. Then the third lady, she was a social worker. So, when she was, what is your opinion when the child is crying? In our country, there are millions, to stop the lecture. Social workers are those who have failed in their personal life. Therefore, they want to destroy the society. They become social workers. These three people said. Then those ladies said, Swamini, you tell now. I said, why should I tell? Fortunately, we have the child there. Let us ask him directly. So we asked, my dear child, why are you crying? He looked at us. No, nothing, just time pass. Again he continued. No reason, I am just crying like that. Can we say that the child is telling the lies? He himself is crying. He said, no, nothing, just time pass. In the same manner, why God created the world? Answer will be given according to our training. See, if my training is the Christian training, there will be a different way. If it is Islamic training, different way. If Hindu training, different way. If it is the physics training, different way. Oh, God created this world out of a black hole. See, once I was traveling in US with one professor of physics, and about 1.5 hour drive, so he asked me this question. According to your Vedanta, what is the how this world is created? So I told him that Vedanta doesn't answer stupid questions. He got so angry. Stupid? Yes. This question has no meaning. I said, you tell according to your physics how the world is created. He said, of course, the world is created out of black hole. I said, very good. Then I took one paper, I had that time some paper, like this paper. You take a piece of paper, that's a piece of paper, isn't it? Now here we remove a little bit of it. For example, suppose we have removed it, very strong paper. Now what is this? This is a hole, isn't it? When the paper was complete, was there any hole? No hole. Is hole an object? Hole is, here in this example, absence of paper. So unless there is a paper, there cannot be hole. So when you say that the world is created out of the black hole, hole in what? Think. Hole in what? See, something is already there and hole in that, that means creation is already there. So your the black hole theory is blacklisted, it is not accepted. Then the second theory is the Big Bang theory. Can there be a bang without two? Simply move like this. There can't be any bang. You require somebody's cheek and then there will be bang, you know. So when there are two, creation is already there. See, friends. Then how this creation? Why God created this world? We all are trained to think in a particular way, and according to our training we start thinking. Then what is the answer? The answer is catch hold of the collar of God and ask Him, hey guy, why did you create this world? See? And for that, seek Him. Ask Him, why did you create this world? See, friends. Thus, we drop the world and the inquiry takes us to the creator of the world. See. And when we go in this direction, we have crossed one of the biggest barriers in our life. And biggest barriers are only one, and that is cause and effect. Why? Now see how it is. When cause and effect, this question is not asked, the quality of life is different. And when this question is asked, the quality of life is different. Like, have we ever asked this question in our life? Why fire is hot? In our childhood, sometimes we touched the fire, we got burnt, and we know it is hot. That's it. It is hot. Then we don't ask question why the fire is hot. We accept the fire is hot, and thereafter we start thinking how to deal with the fire so that our life is benefited from the same quality of the burning which is associated with the fire. In the same manner. Instead of wasting the time, why God created this world, why it is like this thing, why some children are like that, instead of getting into that, start whatever best you can do and take care of the quality of your mind. See? And yet we can't stop asking. See, like, one lady asked me this question. I went to their place and she was a regular, listener. That time she hasn't come. So I asked. I said, hey, that my mama has not come. What happened to her? Oh, Swamiji, she is not well. She is bedridden. So one day I went to see her. She was lying on the bed and she was having some kind of gout. I don't know what is the name of the gout. But it was extremely painful. And the maid servant used to sleep with her. And she used to tell the maid servant, now lift my right hand from my chest and put it down. It was so painful for her. If she has to scratch somewhere, she used to tell, please scratch here below the left eye. It is scratching. It was so miserable. So when I went to see her, she saw me, she was crying for some time, and then she said, Swamiji, what sin I have done? Why I have got all the pain in my life in the old age? Why? What sin I have done? Why should I have this? I have not harmed anybody. I have not done anything bad to anybody. So we want an answer to this why. Who asked me once, why one person in Arunachal Pradesh, he asked, he had a baby and the baby was born with very peculiar kind of body problem. He lived for about, maybe 1 year or less. His body used to be as if without bones. It could be twisted like anything. And he was not in a proper understanding and all that. And one day, he stopped breathing. So, he asked me the same question, why this happened? So, This why doesn't leave us in our life. See? So the scriptures have to give us some answer. Why this happened? Then we are told, look here. Suppose you are fat. Why you are fat? Because you are eating beyond your capacity. Cause effect. Immediately our mind accepts, yes, I have been eating too much, therefore I am fat. In the same manner, we are told, all the miseries that come in our life, they are because of our sins in the last life. See? Miseries will not come to us without any cause. We have done the sins. Now you get the result. Cause and effect. So as you sow, so you reap. Oh, intellectually we are satisfied. See? Then we existed even before this body was born, yes. Out of nothing, nothing comes out. Unless you were there earlier, how can you do good or bad things? Okay, that means before this body was born, I was already there. Yes, you are there. Now, if you don't behave properly in this life, in the next life or after going to God, you will be punished for all that. That means you will continue to exist. See? So what is the total thought? Whatever good or bad that is happening in our life, for that we are responsible. Nobody is responsible. Normally what we do, we blame the world for our miseries in life. If I am a husband, I am miserable because of the wife. If I am the wife, miserable because of the husband. If I am a parent, miserable because of the children. If I am a child, miserable because of the parents. We are expert in assigning others for the miseries of our life. And when this happens, what will be our approach to life? Try to improve others. So the husband wants to improve wife and fails. The wife wants to improve husband and fails. And in a total life is a frustration. I have done so much for all of them, but nobody respects me. Miserable. The whole cycle begins because of why. Instead of that, stop this why business. It is raining, don't go out. But why it is raining today only? We have planned so beautifully. Because God is your enemy and He wants to torture you. See? There is no end to this why. See? Once Vivekananda asked this question to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, that the mother talks to you, why she doesn't talk to me? So the great master told, because you really do not want to talk to her. You are just casual about it. You really don't want. No, I really want. It cannot be. If you really want, she will talk to you. What do you mean by really? I say, we'll see it later. Come on, let's go and take bath. It is time for taking bath. So they went to the Ganges. And the Guru put the head of the disciple below the water level and pushed him down. How long? 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And afterwards he just dashed and came out and breathing. Then the teacher tells, as you are intensely longing for breathing when you are below the waters, in the same manner, when you have intense longing to know the truth is revealed. Our longing is not intense, therefore we go on asking why. There is nothing like why. It is like this. Sort it out. See? Disturbed mind is the mine of all the problems of life. cool mind is the solution to all the problems of life. See? And the problems in the mind begin with these two things, why and how. See? So when the mind starts remaining cool and quiet, then we have no more question why the God has created this world. Go and ask him. I have not created the world. You ask him. Or else find out, instead of asking somebody, which world you are talking about? Which world is bad? Think. Are the 5 great elements bad? No. Are the 5 objects bad? Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha, the sound, the touches, the forms, the taste and the smell, are they bad? They are not bad. The sense organs by which we come in contact with the world, are they bad? They are not bad. Mind, because of which we can experience everything, it is not bad. What is bad in this world? And nothing is bad. And which world we suffer? Do we suffer in God's creation or we suffer in our creation? When we talk about creation, which creation? I as a man is God's creation. I as a son, I as a husband, I as a father is my creation. And this I as a husband, father and a son, they are miserable. I as a man is not miserable. So which world we are talking about? Are we talking about God's creation or our creation? Think. And in this manner, when we start analyzing our own experiences in the light of wisdom, then we come to know that something is wrong with our vision. And correction of the vision is the only purpose of satsanga, what we are doing now. One of the names given to this Bhajagovindam by Shankaracharya is Moha Mudgar. We are all carrying a huge burden of delusions, huge burden of wrong notions. Wrong notion about ourselves, wrong notion about the world, wrong notion about God, and wrong notion about the spiritual practice. So the satsanga or the study of scriptures is meant for only one thing, change your vision. And when the vision changes, everything in life changes. See friends, the other day where it happened recently, who told me? One lady asked me in one of the camps, Swamiji, you will excuse me. Yes, what happened? You are a Hindu? I said, yes. Am I supposed to follow the Hindu path or a non-Hindu path? I said, you are listening to me for so many hours. Have I ever used a single word Hindu? Have I ever used a single word Christian? When you are studying, let us take physics. Do we say it was discovered by Newton, therefore it is applicable only to the Britishers? And the non-Britishers are not influenced by the law of gravity? No, it's a universal fact. In the same manner, what we are talking about is not the religious faith that we are talking about. See? And in this manner, when we dive deep in our understanding, then all the wrong notions disappear. And when the wrong notions disappear, the truth surfaces. And this can be possible only if we have cleaned our mind. Now we have no more problems about the world that disturb us, because whatever best can be done, we have done it. Now relax. Worries do not deliver solutions. They are sterile. See? Worries cannot give any solution. Therefore, with this first vision, living as a body, live in such a manner that the mind is left behind at peace. There are no likes and dislikes, there are no agitations, there are no accumulation of guilt or arrogance. Such a mind is at peace. In that pure mind, then the inquiry kindles. Inquiry is the life only between the womb and the tomb, or the life is beyond? See, if we do not accept this principle, that life is beyond the womb and the tomb, there is nothing that can logically prove why we should be good to others. Suppose I consider my life ends with the body's death, then I will do anything and enjoy my life, kill others, loot, plunder, enjoy. And at the most I will be killed. After that, all cinema over. Why should I be good? Think. Then we are told, if you do something good or bad, either in your next life or you will wait in the waiting list in the graveyard till the day of judgment comes. And the day of judgment will come when the last person will die, and the last person will never die. So you keep on waiting there, when my number is coming, when my number is coming. See? Therefore, friends, this life's picture must be stretched beyond this frame that we know. That we are between only the womb and the tomb. No. Our life is beyond the body. When this principle is accepted, then again we start deeply thinking. If we continue to exist even before and after the birth and the death of the body, means what? This I cannot be the body. Then this I is the embodied. Now see slowly how we are developing. Now when we take this I as an embodied, then the question will come that is my life limited only in this body or it is beyond the body? And if the life is beyond the body, then what could be that life? See? Then we are given two options. One, a good option, second is a bad option. If you do all sinful activities in your life, you will go to hell. So masses can be controlled by two remote controls. One is fear, second is guilt. This is how the religion controls the masses. If you do this thing, you will go to hell. No, I don't want to go to hell. Because we have imagined hell is a place, like our Coffs Harbour is a place, hell is a place. One person came somewhere and asked me, Swamiji, please save me. So I was keeping quiet. I don't want to go to hell. I have committed every kind of sin. Don't know how terrible I am. Now I am regretting, I should not have done. But now I think I will go to hell. Please protect me. I don't want to go to hell. So I told him, look here, don't worry. It is optional. You don't have to go to hell. Really? I said, yes, you will never go to hell. How come? I said, where are you now? A person who is not at peace with himself, he is living in hell. Hell is not a place. Hell is, or the heaven is, the quality of experience that we maintain without any breach or discontinuity. If we are at peace with ourselves, under all conditions, we are living in heaven. Our peace is disturbed, under 6 factors. 2 factors with reference to the body, old age and death, that disturbs our peace of mind. If a thought about our death passes through our mind, then understand we have not lived a spiritual life. One of the most important things. Neither a death thought passes through our life, nor we accept death as the principle of life. Nobody has experienced it. See? So, 2 problems living in the hell: fear born out of old age and death. Second, fear born out of hunger and thirst. We are going there, but we will get good food. See? Then the third pair is at the level of the mind, the grief and the delusion. Where the 6 things exist, that experience is the experience of hell. Where the 6 things do not exist, that is the experience of heaven. And we all have that experience for a short period when we are snoring away in deep sleep. Because at that time we are not identified with the body. So no old age, no death. We are not identified with the prana, so no hunger and no thirst. Not identified with the mind, so no grief and no delusion. So that is the heavenly experience. And therefore, when we are out of deep sleep, don't we go on lingering on bed for another 5 minutes? Hey, excuse me, okay, only 5 minutes, mom, only 5 minutes. What we are doing there? You know, that experience, we want to, like, licking our own lips. Maybe something is somewhere. Exactly the same way. Hell and heaven, these are indicated in the scriptures so that we start leading our life in a self-disciplined manner. Now, the next step. When this is done, we mistake that there is somebody who is living in the body, and therefore as many bodies, so many buddies. And those buddies are called as the souls. S-O-L-E. Like for every shoe, there is a soul. In the same manner, for every body, there is a soul. Oh, he is a very lucky soul. He is a very unlucky soul. Why? Holy. That is not holy. So this soul curry, we will do it tomorrow, before you all go to sleep. The second vision will be the vision wherein we try to investigate about this soul. And when this vision will become clear, then the ultimate vision of life, what is that, how it could be, will be the concluding session. Till then, good night. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.